The city was quiet that night, a soft hush settling over the tall buildings and glowing streetlights. On the rooftop of a sleek glass tower, Aaron sat with his sketchpad balanced on his knees. He had stayed late at work, long after the office emptied, lost in the lines and curves of the building he was designing. His pencil moved steadily, tracing shapes and angles with care, but his thoughts drifted as often as his hand moved. He liked the calm of the night. The hum of traffic below was distant, almost soothing, and the stars above seemed brighter than usual. Aaron loved nights like this, where he could think and imagine freely without interruption. Yet tonight felt different. As he adjusted his sketchpad, his eyes caught a movement on the neighboring rooftop balcony of the building next door. A soft sound floated through the air. At first, he wasn't sure what it was, maybe the wind. But then he saw her. Myra. She was standing near the railing, her violin tucked under her chin, and the bow moved gracefully across the strings. The music was gentle, almost magical, and it made the hairs on Aaron's arms stand up. He couldn't look away. Myra's focus was absolute. Her eyes were closed, her brow slightly furrowed in concentration, and her lips curved in a small, serene smile. She didn't notice him at first, lost entirely in the melody she was creating. The notes floated across the night air, wrapping around Aaron like a quiet embrace. He had seen musicians before, of course, but there was something about the way she played that made the city disappear. After a few minutes, Myra opened her eyes and glanced over the edge of her balcony. Her gaze swept across the rooftops, and their eyes met. Aaron felt his chest tighten for a moment. She looked at him with curiosity, her dark eyes shining in the soft moonlight. He gave a small nod and a polite smile, unsure if he should speak. Myra responded with a delicate smile of her own, and the moment stretched, wordless yet full of something unspoken. Aaron felt a spark of something he hadn't expected, a mix of curiosity and admiration. He couldn't explain why, but he wanted to know more about this mysterious girl who could make the night feel alive with music. He cleared his throat softly. "Your music, it's beautiful," he said, his voice low enough that only she could hear. Myra's eyes lit up, a hint of surprise crossing her face. "Thank you," she said, her voice warm and soft. "I didn't think anyone would hear it this late." "I did," Aaron said with a shy smile. "I work late too. I guess we both like the quiet of the night." Myra nodded. "It's peaceful up here. The city feels different from this height. Calmer, somehow." Aaron looked down at his sketchpad, then back at her. "I know what you mean. I design buildings. Being up here makes me feel like anything is possible." "That's amazing," Myra said, her smile widening. "I wish I could see what you see when you design. I imagine it's beautiful." "It is," Aaron admitted. "But your music, it feels alive. It makes the city feel magical." He hesitated, then laughed softly. "I didn't expect to meet anyone tonight, especially someone playing violin on a balcony." Myra chuckled, the sound like a gentle chime in the night air. "Neither did I. But I'm glad we did." For a few minutes, they simply looked at each other, the silence between them comfortable rather than awkward. The city's lights twinkled below like stars fallen to the ground, and the night wind carried their unspoken thoughts across the gap between their buildings. Finally, Myra packed her violin away and turned to leave. "I should go," she said softly. "It's late, and I don't want to keep you from your work." Aaron shook his head. "No, I'm glad you stayed. Maybe we can meet here again." Myra paused, her eyes meeting his. "I'd like that," she said. With one last small smile, she disappeared from the balcony, leaving Aaron staring after her. He picked up his pencil again, but the lines on his sketchpad now felt different. His thoughts were no longer only about buildings and designs, they lingered on the girl with the violin, her music, and the way her eyes had met his under the moonlight. For the first time in a long while, Aaron realized that something unexpected had entered his quiet life. A feeling he couldn't name yet, but one he wanted to explore. The night stretched on, and the city below carried on as usual, unaware that on one quiet rooftop, a story had just begun, a story of music, art, and something that could grow into something much deeper. And as the moon hung high above, casting silver light over the balcony, Aaron smiled to himself, knowing he would return tomorrow, hoping to see Myra again. The next night, the city felt the same calm, quiet, and full of possibilities. Aaron arrived at the rooftop slightly earlier than before, carrying his sketchpad and a small set of pencils. He had barely slept, thinking about the girl with the violin. He wondered if she would appear again. The memory of her music from the night before stayed with him, replaying in his mind like a gentle, enchanting melody. He walked slowly to the edge of the balcony, leaning against the railing, and gazed at the city lights below. The hum of cars and distant chatter was faint, almost soothing. The moon hung bright above, illuminating the rooftops with silver light. He felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. What would he say if she came? Could they really talk as easily as he imagined? A soft sound drifted through the night air, the familiar, delicate notes of a violin. Aaron's heart skipped a beat. Myra was here. She stood on her balcony across from him, the bow moving gracefully across the strings. Her eyes were closed, her expression peaceful yet focused. The music wrapped around him like a warm blanket, calming and exciting him at the same time. Aaron cleared his throat softly and waved. Myra opened her eyes and smiled when she saw him. She stopped playing for a moment, letting the final note linger in the air. "You came," she said softly, her voice carrying across the small distance. "I wouldn't miss it," Aaron said, smiling. "Your music, it makes this balcony feel special." Myra blushed slightly and looked away, her fingers nervously brushing the violin. "I wasn't sure anyone would notice. It's just something I like to do." Aaron shook his head. "It's more than that. It's beautiful. You have a gift." He hesitated, then asked, "Do you play often at night like this?" "Only when I can," Myra admitted. "The city is so busy during the day. I like nights, they feel peaceful, like they belong only to me." "I know exactly what you mean," Aaron said, picking up his sketchpad. "I often work late too. It's the best time to think, to imagine things that might not work in the daytime." Myra nodded, her eyes softening. "I like that we both come here for the same reason. Maybe that's why it feels easier to talk to you." For a few moments, they were quiet, listening to the soft breeze and the distant hum of the city. Then, Myra set her violin down carefully and stepped closer to the railing. "Would you like to see something?" she asked. Aaron tilted his head, curious. "What?" She picked up her violin again, but instead of playing, she held it in front of her and explained, "I've been trying to compose my own piece. It's not finished yet, but I can play a little for you." Aaron nodded eagerly, his eyes wide with interest. "I'd love that." Myra played, her bow gliding over the strings, creating a melody that was soft, sweet, and full of gentle emotion. Aaron watched, captivated, feeling the music stir something deep within him. It was like hearing the first notes of a story he didn't yet understand but wanted to follow. When she finished, she looked at him, unsure if he would like it. "It's not perfect," she said softly. Aaron shook his head, smiling widely. "It's perfect. Really. I I can't explain it, but it feels alive. Like it's speaking to me." Myra's cheeks turned a soft pink. "I'm glad. I wanted someone to hear it, someone who would understand." Aaron closed his sketchpad and leaned on the railing, feeling a strange, happy warmth in his chest. "I think I understand more than you know. Music like that, it's brave. It's honest." Myra looked down for a moment, then back at him. "I feel the same about you. Watching you draw, seeing how focused you are, it's inspiring. You make it look so easy, but I know it isn't." The night stretched on, and the two of them talked about dreams, passions, and the little moments that made their days feel alive. Aaron shared his ideas for the skyscraper he was designing, and Myra explained the inspiration behind her music. They laughed at small mistakes and admired each other's dedication. By the time the moon had moved higher in the sky, the city below was quiet, and their conversation had created a gentle closeness. They still didn't touch, but the unspoken connection was stronger than words. Their eyes met often, lingering longer than necessary, and small smiles passed between them like secret messages. Finally, Myra picked up her violin and prepared to leave. "I should go," she said softly. "But I'm glad we met here again." Aaron nodded. "Me too. Maybe tomorrow, we can meet again." "I'd like that," Myra said, her smile bright and genuine. As she disappeared from the balcony, Aaron sat back and looked at his sketchpad, but his pencil barely moved. Instead, he thought about the girl who had transformed his quiet nights into something magical. And for the first time, he realized that the balcony, the moon, and the city below had become more than just a backdrop. They had become the beginning of a story he couldn't wait to continue. The following night, the city seemed to glow differently. Street lights reflected softly off the windows of the skyscrapers, and the air carried the faint scent of evening blossoms. Aaron arrived on the rooftop a little earlier than usual, carrying his sketchpad. He felt an unusual nervous excitement tonight, as if the city itself was waiting for something special to happen. He leaned against the railing, looking out at the distant horizon, and soon enough, the familiar sound reached him, a soft, clear melody floating through the night. Myra was there, violin in hand, her movements calm yet full of emotion. Aaron's heart quickened. There was something about the way she played that made him feel alive and inspired. Myra noticed him almost immediately, her eyes lighting up when she saw his smile. She stopped playing for a moment, letting the final note linger in the air. "You're here again," she said, her voice soft but warm. "I wouldn't miss it for the world," Aaron said, leaning slightly closer to the edge, as if the distance between the balconies mattered less each night. "Your music, it makes the night feel different. Special." Myra's cheeks colored slightly at his words. "I'm glad you think so. Sometimes I play and wonder if anyone ever notices. But tonight, it feels like you do." Aaron nodded. "I notice. Every note. It's inspiring." He hesitated, then said quietly, "I've been thinking about you a lot since the last time we met." Myra's eyes widened slightly, and she tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. "Really?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've been thinking about you too. I I like hearing about your designs, and your thoughts about the city." They make me feel like I can see the world differently. Aaron smiled, feeling a warmth spreading through him. I never expected to meet someone like you. Someone who can make a quiet rooftop feel like a whole new world. Myra looked down at her violin, then back at him. You have no idea how much it means to hear that. I sometimes feel invisible in the crowd. But, you make me feel seen. The breeze shifted, carrying the soft scent of night flowers and the distant hum of the city. Aaron felt the moment hanging between them, quiet yet full of something neither had said before. He wondered if it was time to speak the truth, to admit what he felt, but the words seemed heavy on his tongue. Instead, he smiled softly. Would you play something for me again? He asked gently. Myra nodded, adjusting her violin. She began to play, but this time the music was different, softer, more tender, and filled with a feeling Aaron couldn't quite name. He felt his chest tighten, and his eyes stayed fixed on her. Every movement, every note, seemed to speak directly to him, as if her music carried her heart on each string. When she finished, Myra lowered the violin slowly and looked at him with a small, nervous smile. I hope you liked it, she said. Aaron shook his head, unable to hide his admiration. It was perfect. I think it tells me things words can't. Things only your music could say. Myra's smile grew a little wider, but she looked down for a moment, shyly. That means more to me than you know. I don't often feel like anyone truly understands me. But with you, I feel safe. Aaron felt a sudden urge to close the distance between them, even though the balconies separated them. I feel the same, he admitted softly. Being with you here, it feels like I can be myself. No masks, no worries. Just me. Myra's eyes met his again, and the connection between them felt electric yet gentle, like a quiet fire burning steadily in the night. Aaron realized then that this was more than friendship. Something had started growing between them, a feeling of warmth, longing, and admiration that neither could ignore. The moonlight cast soft shadows over their faces, and for a long moment, neither spoke. The city below carried on in its usual rhythm, but on this rooftop, time seemed to slow. Their hearts beat in quiet harmony, their thoughts and emotions intertwining like a melody and its echo. Finally, Myra packed her violin away. I should go, she said softly, though she lingered near the railing, not moving too far. Aaron nodded, his voice low and sincere. I'm glad we met tonight, and every night we meet here. It feels important. Myra's smile was tender, her eyes shining in the moonlight. It does. And I hope we can keep meeting. I want to know more about you. Aaron's heart lifted at her words. I want that too, he said, feeling a quiet joy settle in his chest. As Myra stepped back from the balcony and disappeared from view, Aaron leaned against the railing, his sketchpad forgotten. The night seemed brighter, filled with possibility. For the first time, he realized that this rooftop, this quiet balcony under the moonlight, had become more than just a place to work or play music. It had become the beginning of something beautiful, fragile, and full of promise. And in the soft silence that followed, Aaron knew one thing for certain: tomorrow, and every night after, he would return, eager to see Myra again, and to explore the feelings that had quietly begun to grow between them. The night air was calm at first, and the city below glimmered like a sea of tiny lights. Aaron arrived on the rooftop with his sketchpad tucked under his arm. He had grown used to the excitement that came with these nightly meetings. The thought of seeing Myra again made his heart beat faster, but tonight there was a different feeling and anticipation tinged with uncertainty. He leaned against the railing, waiting, his eyes scanning the neighboring balcony. Soon enough, the familiar soft sound of a violin drifted through the night. Myra was there, bow moving gracefully across the strings. Her music was gentle, filled with emotion, and Aaron felt a familiar warmth spread through him. He smiled, watching her with admiration. But just as the melody reached a soft crescendo, dark clouds rolled across the sky. A sudden gust of wind rattled the railing, and a few drops of rain began to fall. Aaron glanced up, frowning. The storm had come without warning, turning the calm night into something unpredictable. Myra quickly moved to a small overhang on her balcony, trying to shield her violin from the rain. She looked over at Aaron, a mix of amusement and concern in her eyes. "Looks like we didn't expect this," she said, her voice carrying across the distance. Aaron chuckled nervously. "Seems like the city has its own plans tonight." He stepped closer to the edge, feeling the wind tug at his clothes. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine," Myra replied, her smile brave despite the drizzle. "But maybe we should share the overhang. It's safer there." Aaron nodded and moved closer, carefully stepping under the small shelter beside her. The rain pattered softly around them, creating a rhythm that blended with the fading music. They stood side by side, close enough to feel each other's presence, but still just beyond the reach of touching. For a few moments, they were silent, listening to the storm and feeling the electricity of the moment. Then Myra spoke, her voice quieter, almost hesitant. "I don't often like storms, but I don't mind this one. It feels different, being here with you." Aaron turned slightly to look at her. The moonlight caught the rain on her hair and cheeks, making her seem ethereal. "I feel the same," he said softly. "There's something comforting about this. Even in the storm, it feels safe with you." Myra smiled, tucking a strand of wet hair behind her ear. "I guess storms are like life, sometimes unexpected, messy, but also beautiful, if you look at them the right way." Aaron nodded, thinking about her words. He realized how much he had come to value these moments: the quiet rooftop, the music, the conversations that stretched late into the night. "I like that we can be honest here," he said. "No worries about what anyone thinks, just us." Myra's eyes softened. "I've never felt that way before," she admitted. "Usually, I'm careful, trying not to let anyone see too much. But with you, I feel like I can be myself." The rain continued to fall, but the moment between them was warm and gentle. Aaron felt a pull toward her, a desire to reach out and brush the wet hair from her face, but he held back, not wanting to rush the connection they were building. Instead, he smiled and said quietly, "I think that's the best feeling in the world. To be understood, even without words." Myra looked at him, her eyes reflecting the moonlight. "Yes," she whispered. "Exactly." For several minutes, they simply stood together, listening to the storm and feeling its rhythm in their hearts. The city below seemed far away, unimportant compared to the quiet intensity of their shared space. Aaron realized that these nights were no longer just about music or sketching, they were about connection, trust, and a bond that had begun to grow between them. Finally, the rain began to ease, leaving small droplets sparkling on the railings and floor. Myra packed her violin carefully, and Aaron tucked his sketchpad under his arm. Neither of them moved to leave immediately. They lingered, as if neither wanted the night to end. "I'm glad this storm happened," Aaron said softly, glancing at her. "It made the night feel even more special. Myra smiled, her eyes meeting his. "I'm glad to. It's nice to know that even unexpected things can bring us closer." They said their quiet goodbyes, both knowing they would return the next night, eager to see each other again. As Myra disappeared from view, Aaron leaned against the railing, watching the clouds drift away. The storm had passed, but the warmth it had left behind, the closeness, the trust, and the shared vulnerability remained. And in that quiet moment, Aaron knew that this rooftop, once just a place to work, had become something far more important, a place where hearts could meet, feelings could grow, and something extraordinary could begin under the moonlight. The night air was calm and cool, carrying the faint scent of flowers from the nearby rooftop gardens. Aaron arrived on the balcony earlier than usual, feeling a quiet excitement he could not explain. He carried his sketchpad, but tonight, he had a different plan. After the storm, the previous night, their connection had grown stronger, and he wanted to find a way to make the evening more playful, more personal. Across the small gap between the buildings, Myra appeared, violin in hand. Her hair was slightly damp from the earlier rain, and her smile lit up the rooftop like a lantern. Aaron felt his chest tighten, the familiar warmth and anticipation rising in him. She waved, and he returned the gesture, his heart racing with a mix of nerves and excitement. "Good evening," Myra called softly, her voice carrying in the night air. "I hope you didn't wait too long for me." "Not at all," Aaron replied, smiling. "I got here a little early. I wanted to finish some sketches, but I think tonight might be more fun if we do something different." Myra tilted her head, curious. "Different? How?" Aaron grinned and pointed to the small upright piano tucked in the corner of the balcony. "Do you play the piano?" She laughed softly. "I can, but I'm not very good." "Why?" "Well," Aaron said, his eyes twinkling, "I thought maybe we could try something together. You play the violin, I play the piano, maybe we can create music together for a while." Myra's eyes widened in surprise, then softened with a warm smile. "I'd like that," she said. Aaron moved to the piano and opened it, revealing the smooth black and white keys. Myra positioned her violin and took a deep breath. Then, they began. At first, it was awkward. Their rhythms were slightly off, and notes collided in surprising ways. But soon, something magical happened. The music began to flow naturally, each of them adjusting to the other, listening carefully, and creating harmony. Aaron's fingers danced across the piano keys while Myra's bow glided over the violin strings. The melody was soft at first, then grew bolder, richer, and full of feeling. As the music played, their hands brushed occasionally over the keys, sending shivers through both of them. Aaron felt his pulse quicken every time their fingers touched, and Myra's heart beat faster when he smiled at her. The playful closeness of the moment created a silent question neither dared to speak. "Your piano playing is amazing," Myra said softly between notes, her eyes sparkling. Aaron laughed lightly. "You make it sound amazing. I just follow your lead." The music paused for a moment, leaving only the sound of the gentle breeze and the distant city hum. They looked at each other, and for the first time, there was no need for words. Their eyes communicated the feelings that had grown between them, the admiration, the longing, and the quiet desire that had been building since their first meeting. Myra adjusted her violin, then began a soft, sweet melody. Aaron joined her, their music weaving together perfectly, as if it had always been meant to be. They moved closer, their shoulders almost touching, and yet neither moved away. The balcony seemed smaller now, as if the world had shrunk to the space between them, filled with notes, laughter, and unspoken emotions. Finally, Myra finished her song, letting the last note linger in the air. She looked at Aaron, her cheeks slightly pink. I didn't expect it to sound so good, she admitted. Aaron smiled, feeling a warmth that went beyond the music. Neither did I, he said softly. But it does, because of you. Myra's eyes met his, and for a brief moment, the world felt still. The city lights below, the gentle breeze, the balcony itself all faded into the background. All that remained was the connection between them, strong and undeniable. They laughed softly, breaking the tension, but the closeness remained. Aaron realized he wanted to stay there, on that balcony, sharing music, stories, and quiet moments with Myra. The night felt endless, and he did not want it to end. Finally, Myra packed her violin away. I should go, she said softly, though she lingered near the railing, her eyes not leaving his. Tomorrow night? Aaron asked gently, hoping she would agree. Myra smiled, her eyes shining. Definitely. I wouldn't miss it. As she disappeared from view, Aaron leaned against the railing, a small smile on his face. The balcony had become more than a meeting place, it was a space of playfulness, closeness, and shared dreams. Music had brought them together in a way words could not, and the night had deepened the bond that was quietly growing between them. And in the calm silence that followed, Aaron knew one thing: their connection was no longer just a curiosity or a fleeting feeling. It was something real, something beautiful, and something worth exploring under the moonlight, note by note, moment by moment. The city lights shimmered like tiny stars below, but Aaron barely noticed them. Tonight, the balcony felt different, charged with anticipation and quiet excitement. He had stayed late at work, sketchpad in hand, but his thoughts had wandered the entire evening to Myra. Every time he imagined her smile, her music, or the way she laughed, his chest tightened. Tonight, he knew he had to speak what he had been holding inside for so long. He leaned against the railing, waiting, scanning the distant rooftops. A soft breeze ruffled his hair, and the faint hum of the city seemed to fade into the background. Then, he heard it, the delicate, familiar sound of a violin, floating across the night. Myra had arrived. Her eyes met his as she stepped onto her balcony, and she gave a small, shy smile. "Hi," she called softly. "Hi," Aaron replied, his voice a little steadier than he felt. "I'm glad you're here." Myra raised an eyebrow, sensing something different in his tone. "You seem serious tonight," she said softly. Aaron took a deep breath, gripping his sketchpad tightly. "I am," he admitted. I wanted to tell you something." Myra tilted her head, her eyes wide with curiosity and concern. "What is it?" He stepped closer to the railing, his heart pounding in his chest. "These past nights, meeting you here, listening to your music, talking with you, it's changed something in me. I can't stop thinking about you. Myra, I like you. More than just a friend. I care about you a lot." For a moment, there was silence. The city below continued in its usual rhythm, but above, the world seemed to pause. Myra's hands rested lightly on the railing, her bow still in place, her violin untouched. Aaron's words hung in the air, fragile yet powerful. Then Myra's lips curved into a gentle smile, and her eyes sparkled in the moonlight. "Aaron," she began softly, I feel the same way. I've been trying to understand these feelings, and I realize I like you too. I've liked you for a while now. Aaron's chest felt light, as if a weight had been lifted. A smile spread across his face, and he felt a rush of joy that made the night feel brighter, warmer, and alive. Really? He whispered, almost in disbelief. Really? Myra said, her voice steady but full of emotion. You've become important to me. These nights, this balcony, your presence, it matters more than I can explain. Aaron felt his heart swell. He leaned slightly closer, though still mindful of the small space between the balconies. You mean so much to me, he said quietly. I've never felt this way before. Being with you even like this, from a distance feels right. Like it's meant to be. Myra's eyes softened, and for a moment, they simply looked at each other. The moonlight bathed them in silver, and the faint hum of the city below seemed to echo the beating of their hearts. Neither spoke, but the connection between them was palpable, undeniable, and beautiful. Finally, Myra spoke, her voice a whisper. I don't want this night to end. I want to be close to you, Aaron. Aaron smiled, stepping a little closer, feeling the warmth and joy of this moment. I feel the same, he said. Being near you, it feels like everything makes sense. They both laughed softly, a sound full of relief and happiness, breaking the quiet tension. For the first time, the balcony wasn't just a place for music, sketches, or conversation. It had become a space of trust, honesty, and a growing love that neither wanted to hide. Myra adjusted her violin and then set it down carefully, as if to say the music could wait for now. Aaron's sketchpad was forgotten at his side. They leaned slightly closer, their eyes meeting, and for a long moment, words were unnecessary. The warmth, the smiles, and the quiet understanding between them said everything they could not yet voice. I'm glad we finally said it, Aaron whispered. I've wanted to tell you for so long. Me too, Myra said softly. It's wonderful to know we feel the same. They stayed on their respective balconies, but the invisible distance between them seemed to shrink. The city below might have been unaware, but above, on the rooftop under the moonlight, two hearts had found each other. Two hearts had finally acknowledged the feelings that had quietly grown over countless nights. As Myra prepared to leave for the night, she smiled once more, her eyes shining with warmth. Tomorrow, she asked gently. Tomorrow, Aaron promised, a soft laugh escaping him. I wouldn't miss it. And as she disappeared from view, Aaron leaned against the railing, gazing at the moonlit sky. He knew that everything had changed. The balcony, the music, and the quiet nights had led them here to a moment of honesty, trust, and the first real step into a shared journey. And in that stillness, Aaron realized something profound. Love, like music or architecture, was about harmony, patience, and courage. And tonight, they had begun to create something beautiful together. The city stretched beneath them, a glittering sea of lights, but Aaron barely noticed it tonight. The balcony had become their own small world, a place of music, sketches, laughter, and shared moments. After their confessions the night before, everything felt different, closer, warmer, and full of quiet joy. Aaron arrived a little earlier than usual, carrying his sketchpad, but tonight he barely opened it. His thoughts were entirely on Myra and the simple excitement of seeing her again. The moon hung bright above, casting silver light across the rooftops, and the soft breeze carried a faint scent of night flowers from the gardens below. Then, across the gap between the buildings, he saw her. Myra appeared on her balcony, violin in hand, her smile brighter than any city light. She waved, and his heart lifted instantly. She looked as if she had been waiting for this moment as much as he had. "Hi, Aaron," she called softly, her voice warm. "I hope I'm not too late tonight." "Not at all," Aaron replied, smiling. "I've been looking forward to this all day." Myra's eyes sparkled, and she set her violin down carefully. "You mean, just talking tonight?" "Just talking," Aaron said with a grin. "And maybe, sharing dreams. You know, like we always do." For several minutes, they shared the simple joy of conversation. They talked about their days, the little things that made them happy, and the things that sometimes worried them. Aaron shared a new idea for a building, and Myra listened, her eyes shining with curiosity and admiration. Then Myra told him about a new melody she had started composing, her excitement evident in the way she described each note and rhythm. The conversation flowed naturally, full of laughter, gentle teasing, and quiet understanding. They were more relaxed than ever before, no barriers between them, only a growing closeness that made every word and glance feel significant. As the night grew later, a soft breeze carried Myra's laughter across the balcony. Aaron leaned slightly closer to the railing, feeling an urge to bridge the space between them, to reach out in a way that matched the feelings in his heart. "Myra," he began softly. "Yes," she asked, her voice gentle and full of trust. "I just want you to know, these nights with you mean everything to me. I don't think I've ever felt this way about anyone. You inspire me, make me feel alive, and I want to be with you, share everything I can with you." Myra's cheeks flushed slightly, and her eyes softened with emotion. "Aaron, I feel the same. These nights, this balcony, it's become more than a place. It's a part of my life, a part of my happiness. And it's all because of you." For a long moment, they simply looked at each other, letting the words sink in. The city below seemed to disappear, leaving only the moon, the rooftops, and the two of them. There was no rush, no pressure, just a shared understanding that something extraordinary had grown between them. Then, without a word, they both leaned slightly closer, feeling the invisible pull between them. The space between the balconies didn't matter anymore, their hearts were aligned, and their emotions spoke louder than any words could. Aaron reached out a hand, and Myra did the same, their fingers brushing briefly in a gesture that was gentle, tender, and full of promise. "I think, this is just the beginning," Aaron whispered, a soft smile playing on his lips. Myra nodded, her eyes shining. "Yes, the beginning of everything we can share, together." They laughed softly, the sound mingling with the night breeze and the distant hum of the city. The balcony had been a place of music, sketches, storms, and playful moments, but now it was something more, a space where their hearts had found each other, where trust and love had grown quietly but surely. As the night continued, they shared dreams for the future, plans for music, for architecture, and for adventures they could take together. Every idea, every small hope, seemed brighter because it was shared. They realized that the world was wide, full of possibilities, but they had found something rare and precious here, a connection that could carry them through anything. Finally, Myra picked up her violin one last time and played a soft, gentle tune, not for performance, but for the joy of the moment. Aaron listened, sketchpad forgotten, his heart full. When the last note faded, they smiled at each other, knowing that this night, like all the nights before, had strengthened their bond. "Tomorrow night?" Aaron asked, his voice soft but full of certainty. "Tomorrow night," Myra replied, her smile warm and radiant. As Myra disappeared from the balcony, Aaron leaned against the railing, looking out over the city. The moonlight painted everything in silver, and the balcony seemed brighter, warmer, and alive. He realized that their journey had just begun, and the nights ahead would be filled with music, dreams, laughter, and love. And in that quiet, magical moment, he understood something simple but profound. Sometimes, the most extraordinary things in life begin in the smallest, quietest places, like a balcony under the midnight sky, where hearts meet, dreams intertwine, and love begins to shine.